Millions of us woke up today, opened an app on our phones, and just sat in absolute silence.
Yeah, completely convinced we were, like, hacking our brains for ultimate peace.
Right. We treat it as the ultimate green juice for the mind, you know? But what if the data shows that for a significant chunk of us, that heavily marketed silence is actually a psychological trap?
It is a really unsettling thought.
It really is. So, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are bringing you into the room with us as we look at a fascinating and honestly pretty unsettling stack of critical analyses, research notes, and cultural commentary.
All of it focused on a massive sacred cow of modern wellness, which is, of course, meditation.
Exactly. Our mission for this deep dive is to basically separate the genuine benefits of the practice from the multi-billion-dollar hype machine.
Which is huge.
Yeah, massive. We are asking the big question, is sitting on a cushion really the ultimate universal magic pill for the overextended modern psyche?
You know, it is a question that feels almost taboo to ask right now.
It really does, like you're breaking a rule.
Yeah, challenging the value of meditation today is treated like questioning the benefits of drinking water or something. It feels profoundly unscientific to even bring it up.
Right, like you're anti-wellness.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But when you bypass the aesthetic packaging,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the sleek apps and the celebrity retreats, and actually take a rigorous look at the data, a massive canyon reveals itself.
A canyon between what the mindfulness industry promises you and what the practice reliably delivers.
Precisely. There's a huge gap.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we should start right at the foundation, which is the science.
That makes sense.
Because the marketing around meditation, it leans so heavily into this idea of it being a biological superpower.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we are constantly sold this idea that it is a literal biohack, something that can radically rewire your brain's physical architecture, you know?
Right, or give you a massive boost in IQ, or offer this effortless path to superhuman calm.
Yeah. So where are these claims even coming from?
Well, they come from an ecosystem of wellness influencers and tech CEOs who are promoting a body of science that is, frankly, much softer than advertised.
Soft science. Okay, what does that mean in this context?
It means the perceived clinical authority of meditation rests on studies that often suffer from severe methodological flaws.
Like what?
Well, when the sources break this down, they point out that a vast majority of this study supporting these miraculous claims have incredibly small sample sizes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And even more damning than that, they frequently lack active control groups.
Okay, wait, I want to pause on that. What does lacking an active control group actually mean in this context?
So it basically means they aren't comparing meditation to another active, healthy habit to see if it's uniquely better.
Got it.
Like if you take a group of highly stressed people, have half of them meditate for 20 minutes a day, and have the other half do absolutely nothing.
Just sit around staring at a wall.
Right. Of course the meditators will show improvement.
Right, because they are doing something versus nothing.
Exactly. But to prove that meditation is a unique superpower, you need to compare it to someone taking a 20-minute walk, or reading a book, or, I don't know, listening to music.
And you're saying that often isn't done.
Right. It often isn't. And add to that the fact that a lot of this research features biased funding.
Oh, of course. Funding from where?
From organizations that have a vested financial or philosophical interest in seeing positive outcomes. So the data becomes very, very shaky.
Wow. So the foundation we are basing this massive cultural obsession on is fundamentally flawed.
In many ways, yeah.
But there has to be some reliable data out there, right? I mean, what happens when researchers actually filter out the bad studies?
Well, we get a much less glamorous picture. The sources highlight a massive, rigorous systematic review conducted by Johns Hopkins University.
Okay, Johns Hopkins, that's a heavy hitter.
It is. They combed through thousands of studies, threw out the ones with poor methodology, and just looked at the high-quality data.
And what did they find?
What they found was that meditation's effect on anxiety, depression, and pain is actually just modest.
Modest. That is a very specific, almost underwhelming word.
It is, isn't it? It means the physiological and psychological effects are roughly on par with standard antidepressants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, or even just simple physical exercise.
Okay, so going for a jog is basically giving you the same benefit.
Pretty much. Furthermore, we have to factor in the sheer power of the placebo effect.
Ah, right. The placebo effect is huge.
Massive. A huge portion of the reported benefits likely stems simply from the act of intentionally taking a break from your screen.
He's putting the phone down.
Exactly. Breathing a bit slower and having this deep-seated psychological belief that you are doing something healthy for yourself.
So if I'm hearing this right, the culture sells it like a radioactive spider bite that gives you superpowers, but the data suggests it's actually more like taking a daily multivitamin.
Yes.
Like modest, helpful, but it's certainly not going to let you shoot webs.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. It's a multivitamin. And if we take that multivitamin analogy a step further,
Yeah.
the marketing is essentially telling people that if they just take enough of these vitamins, they'll learn to fly.
Right, setting them up for failure.
Exactly. When that gap exists between the expectation of a life-altering transformation and the subtle, slow, honestly, often boring reality of the practice.
People blame themselves.
Yes. The practitioner usually internalizes it as a personal failure.
Yeah.
You sit there thinking, I must not be meditating hard enough.
Rather than recognizing the limits of the tool itself.
Exactly.
But, I mean, if meditation is just a modest multivitamin, my instinct is to ask, what is the harm?
Right. Why not just do it?
Yeah. If someone wants to sit for 10 minutes, take a break from their phone, and maybe get a placebo benefit, why not just let them do it?
Well, because there is a pervasive, completely unexamined assumption in the wellness industry that sitting in silence is universally safe.
It's treated as totally harmless.
Presented to you as a completely neutral, risk-free activity. But the research notes in our stack reveal that for a significant minority of practitioners, it is not neutral at all.
I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that. We're talking about sitting completely still.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive.
How can literally doing nothing cause harm? What does the data actually show?
The statistics are actually quite startling. Over 8% of practitioners report serious adverse effects from meditation.
Wait, hold on. 8%?
Over 8%, yeah.
That seems really high for an activity that is basically just sitting on a rug.
It is high. And we aren't talking about feeling a little fidgety or, getting a cramped knee.
Okay, what kind of effects are we talking about?
We are talking about severe psychological distress. Things like depersonalization, dissociation, severe anxiety, and in rare cases, actual psychosis-like episodes.
Wait, dissociation, depersonalization.
Yes.
What does that actually feel like for someone just sitting on a cushion in their living room? I mean, that sounds terrifying.
It is. Depersonalization is the terrifying sensation of feeling detached from your own body or your mental processes.
Like you're watching yourself.
Exactly, like you are an outside observer of your own life. And dissociation is a disconnection from reality entirely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the mechanics of why this happens are rooted in neurodiversity and what the clinical sources call the trauma trap.
The trauma trap. Okay, break that down for me.
So the standard instruction in meditation is to strip away all external distractions, right?
Right. Close your eyes, quiet the room.
Sit in silence and direct your sustained attention inward to observe your thoughts.
Right, standard stuff.
Now, that is fine advice if your internal landscape is relatively safe and manageable.
Ah, but if it isn't?
Exactly. The human brain is an incredibly active organ. It desperately seeks stimuli to process.
It wants to chew on something.
Right. So if you starve it of external input, it turns the volume way up on the internal input.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, so for people with an underlying trauma history or ADHD or high baseline anxiety, that vacuum of silence isn't peaceful. It can be agonizing.
It's like being told that going into a sensory deprivation tank will relax you. But if you have trauma, it just turns up the volume on a static channel in your head to deafening levels.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it.
It just sounds awful.
It really is. Because without the grounding mechanism of the outside world, a hyperactive nervous system can trigger severe rumination loops.
So you aren't achieving a Zen-like state at all.
No, you are trapped in an echo chamber of your most distressing thoughts. Clinicians actually call this relaxation-induced anxiety.
Relaxation-induced anxiety. Wow.
And this isn't entirely a new discovery either. In historical contemplative traditions, novices and experts alike frequently hit what is called the dark night of the soul.
I've heard that phrase. What is it exactly?
It's a violent surfacing of suppressed pain or emotional overwhelm during deep meditation.
But historically, they weren't doing this alone in their bedrooms, right? I mean, they had support.
Exactly the opposite of today. In a rigorous monastic setting, you would have an elder, a teacher, or a whole community to guide you through that terrifying psychological terrain.
Because they knew it was dangerous.
They deeply understood the dangers of the mind. But today, we've removed the clinical and communal oversight entirely.
It's just you and your phone.
Right. You were sitting on your rug, having a dissociative episode, and the app just chimes in to congratulate you on maintaining your 5-day streak.
Which brings us to a massive contradiction, doesn't it?
It really does.
If the science is merely modest and the practice carries genuine, documented psychological risks for over 8% of people, how in the world did this become a multi-billion-dollar, universally praised industry?
Well, you always have to follow the money to commercialization.
Naturally.
The cultural commentary in our stack heavily criticizes what is known as McMindfulness.
Big mindfulness, like fast food meditation.
Exactly. To scale meditation into a multi-billion-dollar industry, the modern mindfulness movement essentially had to gut the original practice. It has been completely stripped of its Buddhist and Hindu roots.
Right, because if you look back at those traditions, meditation wasn't just a quick 10-minute hack to feel a little less stressed before a Zoom call.
Far from it. The origins of the practice were explicitly and inextricably tied to ethical conduct, deep philosophical frameworks, and the ultimate renunciation of the ego.
It was a whole lifestyle.
It was a rigorous, highly uncomfortable spiritual discipline meant to dismantle your sense of self.
But dismantling the self doesn't sell annual subscriptions, does it?
No, it does not. So companies like Headspace and Calm extracted the aesthetics of stillness and turned it into a frictionless consumer product.
They made it shiny.
They threw in daily streaks, achievement badges, gamification, and celebrity narrators to keep you hooked.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. When did ego death become a high score? Aren't we just taking a profound spiritual discipline and turning it into another exhausting productivity metric that we can feel guilty about failing at?
That is the central irony of modern meditation culture. And it opens up what the sources call the ego backdoor.
The ego backdoor. Okay, what is that?
Paradoxically, a practice that was specifically invented thousands of years ago to dissolve the human ego has been co-opted to become a massive status symbol.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is now just another metric to optimize and track on your smartwatch. It is another way to subtly signal to your peers that you are centered, deep, and superior.
So it becomes a weird form of spiritual pride.
Exactly. And it manifests in a very specific behavioral archetype, the unkind meditator.
The unkind meditator. I think we all know one of those.
We definitely do. This is the person who can sit perfectly serenely on a cushion for an hour every single morning, radiating peace.
Just totally zen.
But the moment they stand up and enter the real world, they are reactive, self-absorbed, avoidant, and completely dismissive in their relationships.
Because translating meditative awareness into actual ethical behavioral change is incredibly hard work.
It is the hardest work. And modern commercial culture largely ignores that difficult work in favor of polishing the user's self-image.
So it's basically a technology of self-optimization designed to make us calmer, more effective capitalists.
Yes.
So we've taken something incredibly deep, flattened it into a gamified app, and are using it to brag about our inner peace while still acting like jerks to our families and coworkers.
That's the ego backdoor in a nutshell.
But the commentary goes even deeper than personal behavior, doesn't it? The sources point out how this exact commercialization neuters our ability to deal with systemic, real-world problems.
It does, and honestly, this might be the most insidious societal critique in the entire stack.
Let's get into it.
The commercialization leads directly to a concept coined by the late psychologist John Wellwood, known as spiritual bypassing.
Spiritual bypassing. How does that actually work in practice?
It is the psychological tactic of using a spiritual practice to actively avoid engaging with psychological wounds, difficult emotions, or relational responsibilities.
So meditation becomes an escape hatch.
Exactly. It becomes a highly sophisticated way of escaping yourself while appearing to confront yourself.
Can you give an example of how that plays out?
Sure. Let's say you are in a deeply toxic relationship, or you have a boss who is actively exploiting you.
Okay.
The necessary, healthy friction of life requires you to have a hard conversation, set a firm boundary, or leave the situation.
Right, you have to take action.
But instead of taking that real-world action, you retreat to the cushion.
Ah. You use the pursuit of inner calm as a shield to avoid doing the hard thing.
Exactly. And on a macro level, this phenomenon leads to the individualization of structural stress.
The individualization of structural stress.
Yes. Think about where the baseline stress of modern life actually comes from for you and me. A massive amount of it is caused by broken institutions, toxic work environments, financial insecurity, and a lack of social safety nets.
Right, systemic external problems.
But the McMindfulness industry frames all of this stress as an internal psychological deficit.
Oh, that's
It
wild.
tells you the problem isn't the world. The problem is your reaction to the world,
Yeah.
and you need to solve it with a breathing exercise.
So instead of asking, why is my workplace demanding 80 hours a week and destroying my mental health, HR just tells you, you just need to utilize our corporate mindfulness program.
Bingo. It is the trap of quietism.
Quietism.
Yeah, if you overvalue the detached observer state, if your ultimate goal is always just to accept what is the health, without judgment, you risk losing your agency.
You stop fighting back.
You lose the righteous anger and the critical thinking that is absolutely required to solve complex problems and demand change.
That is so true.
There is a powerful metaphor in the sources that summarizes this perfectly.
Let's hear it.
Offering meditation for systemic burnout is like handing a breathing exercise to someone while the building they're in is on fire.
Oh, wow.
It momentarily soothes the symptom while leaving the cause entirely intact.
So we're basically being told to breathe through predatory work environments.
Pretty much.
It feels like fixing the smoke alarm instead of putting out the fire. Isn't there a point where accepting what is just a sophisticated form of procrastination?
Well, if you look at it from a corporate perspective, handing out smoke alarms is infinitely cheaper than actually putting out the fire by raising wages or reducing working hours.
That is incredibly bleak, but it makes perfect sense.
It does. When inner calm is confused with making necessary life changes, sitting still just becomes a way to tolerate an unsustainable reality.
A perfectly mindful workforce that simply observes its own exploitation without judgment won't ever demand structural reform.
Exactly.
Okay, so if the cushion isn't the ultimate answer, and as we've seen, it can sometimes be an emotional trap or an excuse for inaction, what do we do?
Right. What's the alternative?
Yeah, if you are listening to this right now and thinking, I understand the risks, but I still just want some mental clarity, where do you actually find it?
Well, the sources offer a really fascinating restorative alternative path. They highlight what they call the focus paradox.
The focus paradox.
The quietest irony of modern meditation culture is that the very thing we are desperately seeking on the cushion, that elusive state of absorbed presence, is actually widely available to us through embedded active life experiences.
Break down the difference for us. What's the difference between the presence we seek on the cushion and the presence we find in active life?
It basically comes down to the mechanics of passive focus versus active focus.
Okay.
The cushion requires passive focus. You are struggling to inhabit an artificial environment, sitting in absolute silence, trying to force a wandering mind to be still through sheer willpower.
Which, as we discussed, can lead to rumination and frustration.
Exactly. Active focus, on the other hand, is achieved through mastery projects and embedded action.
What kind of active focus are we talking about in a practical sense?
We are talking about activities that naturally induce a flow state.
Oh, I love flow states.
They're great.
Yeah.
This could be engaging in deep work, like writing a complex manuscript or solving a difficult coding problem.
Okay.
It could be physical craftsmanship, like woodworking or gardening. It could be long-distance running, playing a musical instrument, or even having a deeply meaningful, challenging conversation with a friend, or engaging in active therapy.
And the research indicates these give you the same benefits as meditating.
Yes. The neurological data suggests they provide the exact same restorative benefits.
Wait, really?
Really? When you are deeply engaged in building a wooden table, for example, you get the sustained attention, get the emotional regulation, and you experience a silencing of the ego because you are entirely focused on the task, not yourself.
But with active focus, you get the immense added benefit of actually producing something of value in the real world.
Exactly. Or deepening a real human connection rather than just retreating into a bloodless vacuum.
So what does this all mean?
It means you have options.
Yeah, it means we don't have to force ourselves into a sterile, silent vacuum to find peace. The flow state of crafting a piece of furniture or going for a long run or finally having that difficult but honest conversation achieves the exact same ego dissolution, but it actually interacts with reality.
That is the core takeaway. You don't need the complex, expensive apparatus of the meditation industry to achieve clarity.
You don't need the subscription apps, the high-end retreats, the gamified streaks.
No, you really don't. And to bring all of this together, the experts in these sources advocate for what they call the 80-20 rule of mindfulness.
80-20 rule, how does that apply to our daily lives?
It suggests that the vast majority of the value of mindfulness, the 80%, comes from the most basic foundational ability to simply pause before reacting.
To a simple pause.
Yeah. Learning to take a single breath before you snap at a colleague or pausing before you send an angry email, That is incredibly valuable practical emotional regulation.
But what about the other 20%?
Well, beyond that basic pause, the advanced states the industry sells you the hours of sitting, the pursuit of total non-attachment, the ego death. Those offer severely diminishing returns for the average person's daily life.
It's like the difference between learning basic first aid and trying to become a neurosurgeon in your spare time.
That's a perfect way to put it.
The basic first aid is what you actually need every day.
Exactly. To synthesize all the data and commentary we've gone through, meditation is not a destination.
Right.
It is not a moral obligation, and it is absolutely not a magical panacea for the modern condition. It is a solid, modest tool.
And it only becomes overrated and sometimes dangerous when it is treated as a substitute for real-world action, structural change, or relationship building.
Spot on.
It's a tool in the toolbox, not the whole workshop. It is amazing how looking at the actual mechanics of the data shatters that sacred cow image.
It really changes your perspective.
It does. The clinical authority is really just incredible marketing, masking a very human, very modest practice. Well, before we wrap up, there is one final powerful thought from the sources that we really want to leave you with.
It's a great question to reflect on.
It really is. It is something to mull over on your own as you go about your day. The vital question to ask yourself isn't whether you are meditating correctly.
Right.
The real question is your current practice helping you face your life? Or is it simply helping you tolerate a life that needs to change?
That is the ultimate test of any practice.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We appreciate you taking the time to look past the hype and explore the mechanics with us. Until next time.